Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 7, I believe, of the Fleming Chronicles. It's been over a year, I think, at this point. So why not start with someone somewhat important? As everyone could see, it is Yannick Retsol Gloster, and I didn't even have that one typed out. It's just I think I've called you by that many different things. We were talking about it
Yeah.
earlier. You don't really care what people refer to you as, but I think the majority of people probably now actually would refer to you as Yannick, especially after everyone meeting each other at LAN. How
Yeah.
are you doing? It looks quite sunny where you are, despite
I'm in Dublin, man. It's raining. I don't know.
oh
My mother said the same thing maybe about like half an hour ago. It's not sunny here. I mean, it's like warm, but it's not good.
you know what it is? I think it's the bright reflections that your background is doing a
Mm.
all right job at trying to blur out, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not too bad up here in Belfast. It's actually kind of stuffy, kind of nice, but that's because I'm locked away in the troll attic. But as a lot of people will see, you recently put out was it a twit longer? No, it was just
No,
a big
it was just
Discord
announcement in Discord. Yeah.
at everyone across multiple servers. That you were stepping back. How is, I guess, retired life treating you at the moment?
It's good. It's good. I'm not as stressed. Not
Yeah.
having to juggle a million things on my plate. Have a little bit more free time, which was the big thing I was looking to gain
Yeah.
back a little bit. Especially considering that I'm starting my master's degree in a week's time, and I just needed to be able to commit to that. So I fully gone from esports, like still kicking around, still working on things in the background, especially with Legion at the moment.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure maybe a LAN is in the near future, but you'll have questions.
Yeah. I was about
later.
to say. We'll
I'm
put
not
some
going to
breaks
spoil
on.
the whole podcast.
Yeah.
Like,
So, in case anyone doesn't know, if you're you would have to be very new to the scene, as of a month or two. But Yannick is the former head admin for Irish Challenger League, which a little bit quiet at the moment, but we'll get into that. Former Legion collegiate manager, I think we were saying, and founder for Lotus. You'll notice that isn't former or previous. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but potentially not as final as the other two. But we'll start things off at the beginning. We'll not go like playing career and stuff like that, as I said to you earlier. We'll go, when did you get started behind the scenes, and sort of how did that come about?
yeah, so I had pretty much stopped playing video games when I came to Ireland. I used to play a lot of Counter-Strike back in the US in high school. And then I came to Ireland, didn't have great PC. It was just on my laptop, and didn't know people who played games here. So I just sort of stopped. And then COVID hit, and I started playing Counter-Strike again. And then Quigs introduced me to loads of people in the Counter-Strike scene because he'd been kicking around for a while. And at one point, the idea was thrown out by Quigs to QICL, which was this thing that people had done beforehand, but it was pretty much dead for 6 months, a year at that point. And so we all played a game of ICL, and with that, there was a renewed interest in Irish Counter-Strike. I started playing, obviously, with all those people because I enjoyed playing Counter-Strike. And then at one point, I had the idea that I could build a Discord bot to sort of like automate like match rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I built that, and then from there sort of helped out with running a couple of tournaments, and then ended up actually just running the tournaments and coming up with the tournaments myself. And then sort of from there, it all just the responsibilities sort of started stacking on top of each other, and I just started doing more and more. It's just sort of who I am. Like when I do things, I just like 110% focus. Otherwise, what's the point?
I have been told that potentially when it comes to projects, you can get your teeth sunk in and run with it.
Yeah.
And potentially that, I don't know, maybe you struggle to delegate and slow down a little bit.
A little, especially like with things being online. Like I think I have a high standard in terms of how things are run, and like if I like it's a weird, like I've run a couple of things like before, obviously ICL and stuff. Like I was super involved in video production in high school and like that sort of stuff. And my sort of like, I guess, leadership principles is like, if someone wants to do something, that's great. I'll support them in doing it, but that want and need has to like come from it themselves. And like, I'm not here to like encroach on other people doing work. But on the other hand, like, I think especially Irish Counter-Strike is extremely flaky when it comes to people doing things and running things. And the biggest thing is for me, like, if you want to do something, just go ahead and do it, and I'll help you with it.
So
And yeah.
I'm actually realizing I am gonna have to just jump in a couple times here, and put the brakes on you. So you said you start off with Discord, but that obviously is when you start making yourself known to the staff and, like, I guess, management, shall we say, at ICL. How quickly did it go from the completion of like the Discord bot to just running the tournaments outright and putting them together? Because whenever I first came about, I think Adam might have helped me get in. He basically was like, right, well, you help this insane American man with the back end of a tournament. I think I did one day of maybe some tournament admin. It fell all apart. It was a bit of a disaster, but I kind of looked at you as like someone who, okay, I thought they set up the tournaments and you just make sure it runs. How quick was it until you were just the driving force behind the tournaments actually happening?
It was a couple of months, I think. I think that first one, like that first tournament, I think you're talking about was like either in December or January.
Yeah, it was quite
and
early.
That was when it was like Ruben and Adam had like done like all the preparation of configs and stuff, because at that point we were still like running our own servers and we didn't have like the partnership with Faceit or stuff with Challenger mode. And so it was just a couple of months after that, it was sort of the next tournament, like it was almost like meant to be, where I think Ruben was busy and had family things that he had to attend to or something that meant that he was busy. And I was in the US at the time, and I just sort of was like the person who knew what they were doing to be able to do it.
Okay,
so it. And then, I had my own ideas on how to like try to, make things work and that sort of thing. So
and once you had done it once, it wasn't going to go back to how it was, pretty much.
No, like and like there was, we obviously wanted to make, like, I care about Irish Counter-Strike because obviously like I play in it, right? And wanted to make it a fun environment for other people and for myself. So like, whatever I could do, whatever ideas I had, I just wanted to like put them out on the table and just, do them. And what better time to do them than during COVID, because like
you're locked indoors. And whenever you started, like whenever the tournaments basically became like you were the driving force, was there much resistance whenever you would propose doing one, or like especially whenever Challenger mode started coming up? I imagine you had like you were like one of the main people in bringing Challenger mode to ICL. Did you have to like okay it through through that many people, or was it pretty much if you gave like your seal of approval, right, we need to try this, it's gonna really help, was it just okay, go with it sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, ICL doesn't have that much of a structure.
Yeah, no, I know. Like, I'm just laying like, it out for people.
Organization, it's very loose, right? Like it's a bunch of people from over the years who have been involved in, Counter-Strike in Ireland. Like it's not like a proper business structure with like a 10-point plan of what we're doing for the next like 10 year. But like when we moved to Challenger mode, the reason why we were doing that is we wanted to do a tournament with prize money. But it was super difficult. Like it was frustrating to deal with, like getting people's PayPals, getting people to pay, doing the money, and then also all of that's not extremely transparent, right? Like especially being a person who was new to the scene and who all of a sudden started running things, right? Like people, like I was aware of the fact that people might not just trust sending me money, which is totally a fair thing to do, right? Like, I know that this is how things had been done sort of in the past, but I wanted to make it sort of super clear and straightforward of what it is we were doing, where the money was going, and that, it was all, by the book. And I had seen that some UK org had done a tournament on Challenger mode, and that's when I started looking at it. And it was like, well, they host servers for you for free. They allow you to do pay to enter tournaments where the money goes directly back into the tournament. And
Oh,
like
I know.
they barely take any cut. So it was like a really good platform for that. And so, you know, we did a bunch of stuff there. We ran like the summer series, which was cool. You know, had a $500 sponsorship from Opera GX. Loads of like cool stuff with that. And then we were able to use the fact that we were being recognized by Challenger mode to then be recognized by Face It.
Okay, so that one pretty much helped the other.
Exactly, where I had reached out or attempted to reach out to Face It multiple times through multiple different venues, whether it was through their like partnership forum, whether it was through like Endpoint or UKIC, and like all of that. Like I had tried these different venues because we were obviously already on Face It, and bringing people from one platform to another is a difficult thing to do. But Face It didn't like acknowledge us as a group of people.
Yeah,
we moved away.
I do remember that quite heavily. I think honestly, yeah, because if anyone wasn't about at the time, whenever UKIC came about, a lot of people sort of kicked off that UKIC was trying to integrate Ireland into the fold without any direct communication to the people who were putting in the main thrust of work, which, I mean, at the time I was a little bit skeptical, but I think it's worked out okay for both parties, to be honest.
I mean, originally, so the thing was that originally, like UKIC was UK Circuit.
Yeah.
Right. And it was the sort of UK hub where Irish people could play if they wanted to. But that was that. And then when Endpoint took over UK Circuit and sort of like merged into one organization, it was at that point that it became UKIC, where it was UK and Ireland, and specifically branded by Face It. And I know that Endpoint have a partnership with Face It in terms of like Face It points and sponsorships, and you know, I don't know the details of that, but that was frustrating to people in ICL because we had just like regained a lot of popularity, a lot of momentum, and we wanted to carry that forward. And obviously, like, you know, a platform is super integral to pushing forward like momentum of a community, because not like a community on its own is great, but if you're congregating in one place, by having the maximum amount of tools to be able to do that is obviously better. And you know, Ireland's a fairly small enough community, but proportionally to the number of people who live in Ireland, ICL is pretty big. You know, and so we wanted to take advantage of our rather large proportional group of people being involved, and then benefit, you know, Face It or Challenger mode by having these people and bringing these people to the platform, and then take from them their wider reach and sponsorship and that sort of stuff. So it worked out in the end, but
it was definitely a rocky road, a lot of animosity at the time, but I don't think, because a lot of people I think were worried that UKIC would take a bit of a chunk out of ICL, because obviously you can play for ELO and all that sort of stuff, but I don't think ICL's ever necessarily been about improving your stats. It's always been, let's be real, a bit of a piss take, like a bit of fun.
Well, that was the hub, right? And then Face It eventually introduced the clans, and that was one of the first things that we actually, the first communication that we had with Face It was that clans was in beta, and through Endpoint we were able to speak to the partnership managers, and the partnership managers created a clan for us, because at the time they had to make it for you, and you went from there. And for those who don't know, the clans are just I mean, probably most people watching will know, but it's like a way of playing Face It as a like community, but in the broader Face It like pool of matchmaking.
It's like an open lobby that only people who are signed up to see that particular one will see it.
Exactly. And so here we have one specifically for Irish players, and that worked out really well, because it meant that the hub could be fun games, whatever maps, you know, all levels of skill level or whatever, but we could also have like a serious competitive side without needing to have like a large player base to support that competitive side. Because
Yeah.
one of the big things is that with a small scene, right, like Face It is never going to give ICL elo hubs, because it could be abused so much, because there's just
Yeah.
not enough people playing the games. And even at the peak, when there were 4 matches, 5 matches at the same time, right, there's still not enough like diversity in terms of player skill for that to work. Whereas when
Yeah.
you're playing against the broader Face It pool of players, you are playing with people who are from your community, but playing against other communities, and that works really well for ICL because it keeps people together, but then allows them to be competitive if they want to, or not, depending on who they play with.
Yeah. So with like most of ICL we've sort of talked about, at the moment people will notice it is deathly silent. Apart from the clans, as you mentioned, but I don't think the clans take much. ICL themselves don't really have to do much. The clans will always just sort of keep themselves going, especially with you now taking a little bit of a step back. I think a lot of people might be worried that ICL is probably just going to go by the wayside, especially with the sort of people who are supposed to be the owners of it. Is that the case? Is there anything you can really say to that, or is it just like good luck in your future endeavors type of thing? Or is there people there that you would earmark to push on and make something?
I mean, the biggest person that I would point to is definitely Adam, right? Like, Incipients. Like he's been around forever. I don't think he's ever gonna like fully like disappear either.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd say I'm more likely to do so. You know, I think that like, ICL also benefited a lot from COVID. Right?
Yeah,
where
100%.
Lots of people were playing video games and stuff like that. And like, the community is going to adapt and change depending on what people want from it. Right. And I think that that's the most important thing. Right. Like during COVID, we were able to run the summer series with 12 or 14 teams or whatever it was. And there's no way we'd be able to get 14 teams together.
No.
To do like multi-week long tournament, right? Or even like a one-day tournament, right? Like,
because even Legion suffered from like the second season, just the amount of people that stopped playing because they could go out and get drunk.
Exactly, and don't blame them for it.
Yeah, 100%.
And so like having like that's why I think actually the clan has been just so good, because it allows for that constant humming of games in the background, people looking to play with other people, and like it's like a slow burn, right? Because people are going to mostly play with people that they're already familiar with, but there are plenty of times where after a match someone's like, oh, I can't play another one, and you're 4 people looking for someone else, and that way then you reach out to other people and they queue with other people, or you've got 3 people and it's like, well, who are you going to play with now, right? Like I was just looking, the clans have 400 people in them, the hub has 1,000, right? Like it's slowly, considering that the clan was only made a year and a half ago, a year ago, it is just slowly going through, and people are playing, and it's nice to see like even old people. Like yesterday I saw that Ekip was playing, right? And like stuff like that, like it still keeps people within the community, which is I think important, and even though it might not be the same as what it was during COVID, I don't think, like, you can look at most esports businesses, it's not going to be the same, and I don't think that the expectation should be that. And like, there will be people who will come and go within the scene, who will help run things. I know Drags used to be super involved before I was, like stuff like that. And I think that having space, opportunity, and sort of history in terms of people doing that is totally fair, and that's what a volunteer community is.
It's a very, 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 very good starting point for a lot of people, especially like me, for example. That's where I started all my sort of stuff. Do you think though that now people have had a LAN under their belts, that the online tournaments that ICL are going to potentially run, I should say, in the future are gonna suffer? Because like, especially you look at people like LMJC and stuff, they're not gonna play an online ICL tournament anymore whenever they're doing all their ACA stuff. They'll still come to LANs, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, especially some of the more established people, might just not bother with any online tournaments now that COVID's out of the way. Well,
It's not
somewhat.
even just the Adam JCs of the world. I think there's a lot of people who are partaking in, whether it's ESEA Open or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like you've got like, like Dynasty, like Mark,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and like stuff like them. Like there's actually a significant group of people who are interested in playing in these more like high competitive environments.
yeah,
And trying to improve their skill. And unfortunately, ICL can't offer that.
yeah, yeah.
And like, I think that pivoting towards lands is now in this post-COVID era what's more interesting for people, potentially sponsors.
Yeah.
I don't know, the recession isn't going to help with that, but
Just plug your ears, don't think about it.
yeah, exactly. Just do things like I did. Make it, no one makes any money, but no one really loses money either, right? Like that was the goal with Lotus, and that's sort of what happened. So
yeah. But so moving on from that, because I think the ICL is kind of like a bit of a not a shallow topic, but you blow through everything reasonably quickly. Whenever ice, where were you when ice fell? Yeah, it was a bit out of the blue. I think it took a lot of people by surprise. It was, I was supposed to be doing an interview with Aiden, but yeah.
I mean, the big thing that, especially being in the position that I am now, that was disappointing to see. Like Aiden did a lot of groundwork putting together collegiate in Ireland, right? Like there would be no Irish collegiate esports if it were not for Aiden, right? And he has to be applauded for that. But obviously, it wasn't a sustainable business model for him in the way that he was running it, and he wasn't able to turn it into a sustainable business model. And at that point, when when ICE did, he sent that Discord message. I think it was something like the 10th or 15th of August, right before the next season. There wasn't anything in place to replace it.
Yeah, because it was very out of the blue, like.
Yeah, exactly. And whether it was like, I think he could have done a better job, potentially reaching out to other organizations in Ireland. There are a few like Legion or Wild that have your Natives now is a new one that have like a bit of money, or even reaching out to the likes of Newell or NSC, opening the opportunity for Irish students to play there and having a clear path of what was going forward, right? And when that happened, like there were students that obviously wanted a path going forward, and that was Roe, who really pushed the who like had reached out to a bunch of the society heads and was like, I'm putting together this Discord of trying to figure out what we're going to do next.
Yeah, no, because I do remember distinctly. I think he might have reached out to me, and I think Google might have as well. And I just sort of said, yo, like you guys need to message each other and sort something out. Did you though, like taking it back a second or two, did you expect ice to drop, or did it come out of nowhere for you as well? Because obviously they had just started doing stuff with
Steel Series.
Yeah, Steel Series for their summer series, and it kind of looked like, okay, maybe they were starting to get a bit more momentum. They were doing summer stuff, which typically, which now seems to be the death knell for a lot of things, whenever they start doing something during the summer. But at the time, it looked like things were going to continue. I know we had just done Icebreakers for their last season, so it kind of, there was a bit of buzz, you know what I mean? People were starting to trash talk. People were starting to make it mean something, and just out of nowhere, it kind of, at least for me, it just disappeared.
Yeah, well, I think like the Steel Series, when I saw the Steel Series prizes, it was announced a little too late.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Where like there was no they had planned on doing a summer series with no real semblance of actually whether they're going to be prized. It was like, oh, there will be prizes, but like what, right? Like, again, like people need, especially in the summer when people are off and not home, you need a bit of incentive to get people to play. And when like that happened, it was like, it's a bit rough because it was already too late by the time that they announced it, and no one had actually signed up for it. And that to me was like a big warning sign, because if you're speaking to any sort of sponsors, or you're talking to anyone, right, especially if they're talking to someone like SteelSeries, right, like
Yeah.
that deal that they had with SteelSeries was most likely for product only, right, with no actual money to run
Yeah.
the thing. And product is great, but it doesn't pay bills.
No.
And so at that point, there were no numbers for the signups that had those products. So a company or a brand like SteelSeries is not going to look to further sponsor with money in terms of advertising dollars into a company that wasn't able to do anything with the stuff that they got in the first place.
Yeah.
So there were kind of like small alarm bells that I could see. But, it was a shame when it happened. But, we were able to at least come out of it with something for at least 1 year. And that, there was great success in Legion, which was nice to see.
Yeah, so you sort of said that a Discord kind of got brought up. How quickly did you, Ronan, and Buchel sort of emerge as, like, don't want to say the figureheads, but
just at the start. It was literally right at the start, because Ronan was like, I want to put this together, and myself and Sam know each other fairly well through Quigs and then having worked together and stuff. But we didn't know Ronan really at all, besides just being like a competitor. And we could tell that he was like serious about what he was doing, had already reached out to all the different people. So when myself and Sam were wanting and willing to put something together, he had already done a lot of the work and had reached out to us. And so we sort of fell into that position of running things. And I had reached out to a couple of the esports orgs in Ireland for ICL, one of which being Legion. And it was at that point when they were like, so we're potentially interested in sponsoring ICL, but do you know anything about collegiate? And I was like, well, funny that you asked that. And so that's how that started with Legion. Was that I had already been talking to them very briefly, and it just sort of like all fell into place.
Yeah, because it was very, very quick. Like if you think about how long that sort of would usually take. Now I imagine you're probably under, like, you probably can't speak about it too much, but without Legion, was there anyone else, or was there a number of other entities that were potentially looking to step in to do what Legion has done and sort of pick up the mantle a little bit? Or was it essentially like Legion came forward, you didn't really entertain anyone else, and just went from there?
At the time, it was only Legion.
Okay.
And we had no other options. The only other option that we had was Irish players participating in Newell, which also became the case. And actually, like, the two options were available. Irish students could partake in the Newell, which is one of the UK collegiate organizations, university organizations, sponsored by Amazon. And then they were at the time the only ones that were we didn't really even put any effort. We were just happy that someone was willing to said yes. Pay the casters, pay the admins.
Because that was a big
decent rate.
Yeah, that was a big quality of life thing, especially like, selfishly for myself. But it does seem like a lot more sort of care was taken with the different aspects now. Like, because I know with Ice, casters still got paid. Some people still got paid bits and pieces. But with Legion, there was definitely like a step up in terms of what could be achieved. And I think it was kind of important because although Ice had laid the groundwork, there was sort of bad blood with parts of the community and other games as well, to be exact. Now, that I'm not saying that definitely hasn't happened, this time around still with Legion, but I think once the groundwork was put in, it was probably quite good to get a new face to come in and then just take it that step further.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the big thing is when we were negotiating with Legion, the big thing for us is we wanted a guarantee for a year, which we got, and we wanted to ensure that everyone was being paid the same, if not more, than what Ice was paying.
Yeah, okay,
And
yeah.
like that was the sort of deal. And we told Legion, like, this is it, you take it or you leave it. And they took it, and that was good because it meant that, you know, anyone that was doing anything got paid for their work.
Yeah.
You know, maybe like it's you know, I think for myself, Sam and Ronan, we were maybe criminally underpaid, but that's okay.
It
Because at
got
the
it
end of the
rolling.
day, like at the end of the day, what mattered at least to us is that we were in a position to be able to do that and ensure that everyone else was being paid for the work that they were doing, which was probably the most important thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good though. It was a good year, and we got good numbers, which was nice to see. And you know, hopefully can continue into next year.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So the first year, was there anything you would change about it? Because from my memory, now my memory's not particularly great, but I do think it went relatively smoothly. There was the odd, you know, sometimes the community has a little bit of a freak out, and sometimes Discord, you know, channels need to be told just to calm down or slow down or something like that. But was there anything foundational or any decisions that you thought you would maybe review, or it was a pretty solid enough first year from my POV?
Yeah, it was pretty chill. I think the big thing that I would have liked to do is have land finals, right?
Yeah,
That excites students and gets students involved and that sort of stuff. Um, I think having a deeper relationship um, with the colleges would have been nicer, or like with the societies. Like I know Ice had provided, like, you know, jerseys
yeah,
and banners and stuff for the societies. It's something that I had pushed Legion to do, but you know, there's only so much money that can go around and stuff. But that sort of thing, especially coming into this next year, it's what I would have liked to be doing now. Jerseys as well was something that we had started during the summer, or like sort of not at the summer, but it was supposed to be done by the summer, but it's not done yet.
yeah,
It's these sort of like small things. You know, unfortunately, we weren't able to do Smash second semester. So like these few small things, I think, are the things I would have, you know, and hope to be able to change into the future. You know, at the moment, there's still a few things going on in the backgrounds for what collegiate looks like in the future that I
yeah,
am definitely not allowed to talk about,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Not
But
on record, at least.
there's definitely stuff working
Yeah,
in the works, and hopefully should all be announced soon. There's just a couple of things that need to be ironed out, but there is going to be something for Irish students in the future, and that'll be sustainable. But the question is, in theory, there's a meeting very soon that will dictate how the
okay,
rest of my sentence could
yeah,
finish.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
But no, but there is like there's not going to be nothing, which is the most important thing.
Yeah,
And you know, maintaining an Irish identity is super important to everyone who's involved and has been involved in the whole point. That was the whole reason why Legion stepped in the first place. And it's super important that Irish students can continue to have a place to play and represent their colleges and feel like a group of people, because at the end of the day, what's nice about Irish esports, just regardless of what community you're in, whether it is the collegiate scene, whether it is Rocket League, whether it's Counter-Strike, whether it's Dota or League of Legends or whatever,
yeah,
is that there's a big enough group of people where there's competition, but small enough where you pretty much know everyone if you want to know everyone, right?
yeah,
And it makes for a cool group of people, to be honest, because you get to sort of like, you know, I knew when I was going to play against the TUDA team that I'd be just slapped around, and I just knew that they were that good, right? Or like whether I was playing against Queens, or I knew that if we were going to play against UCD, that I might have a chance of beating Sam. You know, stuff like that is important, I think, to the Irish esports experience, and is part of the reason why I liked playing in Ice when I did, and playing in Legion last year.
yeah.
So
And one of the big things actually I remember last season was the introduction of the wider European FACEIT collegiate system, which unfortunately it does feel like we kind of We did a bit piss pouring, I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
we never do well
Yeah, when it goes to wider
European wise.
Europe.
I think Rocket League has maybe seen the most success on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
European
no,
level.
100%.
And actually, on the Rocket League side of things, actually, the University Rocket League tournament in Europe, Uni Rocketeers, got sponsorship from Psyonix, the
Oh,
publisher
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
Rocket League. So that was another big thing that also happened. And yeah, no, the Face It Collegiate was cool coming to Europe. They've been involved in the
It
collegiate
is.
scene in
Yeah.
America for a while. You know, and it was nice to be involved with them. Moving to Face It was slightly disappointing
Yeah.
from a lot of perspectives, and
Yep.
I don't think that we're going to be on Face It next semester at all.
Okay.
Bar
Is it
qualifier for the Face It Collegiate event. So if things are going to happen the way that they're most likely, you know, things will be run on Challenger mode, and then there'll be some sort of qualifier for Face It Collegiate.
okay?
Something
So
along those lines, similar enough to what say the Benelux region did
yeah.
for their qualifiers, stuff like that. Just because lots of players had issues with Face It, the Rocket League guys especially. Nothing ever worked the way it was supposed to in terms of like match rooms being created and lobbies and that sort of stuff. So that was very frustrating for them. You had a bunch of issues with
Yeah, I
with League
remember.
of Legends players
Yeah.
having non-alphanumeric characters,
Oh, right.
which
Okay.
just broke Face It's thing. You just could not connect an account that had a name with a non-alphanumeric character, which is just like bad
Ridiculous.
programming.
Yeah.
And from an admin management standpoint on CS:GO, there were so many problems.
Yeah, the Tonzi forever pause as well. I remember that on
Yeah,
Inferno.
like there were a lot of problems, unfortunately, and because of that, it just doesn't make sense to be on a platform that doesn't support all the games that we want to support at a functional level.
Yeah, because we're not even a massive. I say we. Legion Collegiate is not even a massive entity, to be honest. Like it seems fairly big in terms of like countrywide collegiate sort of stuff. Like, but
Yeah.
as as a straight up tournament organizer, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and like there's just limitations of the Face It platform.
Yeah.
Face It is, in relative terms, old and is built on a lot of old infrastructure that seems to not work exactly as you expect it to sometimes. And you're limited in terms of what you can do. And I'm not saying that all the problems that we had on Face It are solved by Challenger mode, but there are some that are. And I think the ones that aren't, we're willing to compromise on based off of how communicative Challenge mode have been with me across Legion and ICL, and how super involved they are within their esports communities that they have on. You know, we had a lot of benefits from Face It as well, right? Like there was good organization from a match admin standpoint. Like you could write notes and keep track of things pretty well. I know that our Rocket League admin liked that a lot.
Yeah.
We had a good API integration for registration and stuff like that, which allowed us to verify student identity and stuff like that, which was really handy.
Yeah.
Which is now potentially actually something that's coming to Challenger mode, but that's cool. But like there was a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just not the platform for all of collegiate esports in Ireland. It just doesn't work.
It sounds like you're trying to make it a really mutual breakup. You know?
Yeah, I mean it's just not for us.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And you know, there's no collegiate platform though that is without fault.
Oh yeah.
I know Newell's platform, the GG Tech platform, is frustrating from a user experience. But at least you know, they've got 100 engineers in Spain specifically working on that platform, which is nice. You've got the NSE platform, which is just essentially a customized version of the Epic LAN platform.
Okay.
And it works okay enough, but again, some frustrations as well. The layout is not great either.
Yeah.
So, you know, you do what you can do with the resources you have. Collegiate is small enough in the esports game.
Yeah.
You need from an advertiser's point of view, you're advertising to students, which is people who generally don't have a lot of money to spend.
Yep.
And you're also you need to have like a path of like, this is not going to return me money, because it's never actually the point of supporting grassroots esports like ICL or like collegiate stuff is not necessarily to have a 110% return on your investment. It's to support these people who will, in other investments, you'll get your money back. Because if you don't support the base of the structure of esports, these players aren't going to want to continue to play as they go into adulthood, and won't want to continue to watch esports stuff where the money can be made and where the sponsorship can be made back, right? So you need to support the base to get to the rest of it. And it's a difficult pitch to tell sponsors that, hey, you're not going to make your money back here, right? But by doing this, you're ensuring that people stay interested in esports on a sort of holistic level, which is important for your brand. So.
Yeah, exactly. So now you'll be taking less of a front-facing role with Legion.
The big thing is the day-to-day admin role.
Yeah,
where I won't be essentially on call every night, which I was for the last year, and that's quite a lot. I think part of that is shifting responsibilities. I know Ro is taking a little bit more, but it's also putting more, not necessarily responsibility, but more, what's the word? Maybe not responsibility, sure, onto the admins. And they can have more ownership over their individual game.
More independence,
Exactly. And that on the one night a week that they're adminning, that they can take care and be responsible for all of the problems, and that we trust them enough to take care of all the problems. Not that we didn't trust them before. But I think a lot of the times when there was something that was questionable, they turned to us to,
because you're there,
be like, oh, what should we do? And in the future, it's more so they're the point of contact. They deal with the issues, and they do that one night a week. And I think that way, things work a lot more smoothly.
Yeah, because they'll get a feel for the individual game and the individual people that they're dealing with week in, week out.
Exactly.
But so you'll still be involved in sort of the bigger pictures, the meetings,
Oh yeah, like we still have our meetings, and at the moment, we're figuring out what the next year looks like, and with that, I'm still managing and maintaining the registration site as we move over to challenge mode and all of that sort of stuff. So like I'm still around, and I'm not going to not be around. And especially ensuring that there's something that Irish students can partake in, because in the event of a full economic recession, I still want there to be something for students to partake in. So at the very least, ourselves, myself, Sam, and Ronan are sort of chipping away in the background, ensuring that there's something for Irish students.
Yeah. Okay. So the last entity, Lotus Lan, yes, which you are a founder of. So obviously we just had the first one. Before jumping
a couple of months.
Yeah, just a couple of months ago. But before jumping to it, we had, well, I say multiple people in the scene had been talking for a long time about trying to get a LAN. Obviously, COVID kind of pushed it back. Didn't know when we'd be able to do one. How many times did the plan change? How many adaptations had to be made until we actually hit Limerick?
0.
Really?
0. Limerick LAN was my first attempt at organizing a LAN, and it almost didn't happen, but it did happen. Just for some context, we were told by the University of Limerick that we didn't need event insurance originally.
Yeah, I remember this.
And the day before the event was meant to happen, I got an email, or Adam got an email from, this is UL Adam, not Incipiens, got an email from UL being like, so where's your event insurance? And we were like, the what? So we were able to very last minute get ourselves event insurance at a actually very reasonable price, which didn't affect the cost of tickets. and we were able to make everything happen. But the plan didn't change. It was really we ran technically the first Counter-Strike LAN outside of COVID was in Maynooth, which was really me getting my feet wet a little bit in the organization that it takes to run a LAN, seeing if people would be interested, etc., etc. I did happen to get COVID during it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Really sucked. But that went out without a hitch, really, bar me getting COVID. And, that sort of gave me the confidence that from an organizational standpoint, it would be possible. I just needed a venue and I needed a place where people could get accommodation. And thanks to the help of UL Adam, we were able to work with UL, get a good, a great sort of group price for accommodation in their college accommodation, because they had a lot during the summer, and obviously like they want to fill those rooms during the summer and then get the room to be able to use and all of that. So that all sort of went off. We picked the dates. It was fairly short in terms of once we got information confirmed for people to be able to sign up and commit to it, which I would have liked more time, but because it was the first proper one back, I think people were pretty forgiving to be able to commit 1 month out to this event for the weekend, which was great to see. And, got to meet everyone. And, there were 14 teams, 14, I think. Yeah. So it was really cool. It all was kind of chaotic the first day.
Yeah.
That was due to a dead Ethernet cable. And, people were very also forgiving to me, because we did play games until like 11, 12 o'clock at night. 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Past 12 o'clock easily.
Past 12, yeah. So people were very forgiving based off of that. And the second day, no problems at all. Everything went smoothly. Like, had I figured out that it was the Ethernet cable that was causing all of the issues, bar the power problems, the power problems just sort of killed an hour, and that was like people's lunch break, and that would have happened anyway. But like that one really bothered me that I didn't figure that out sooner.
No. But like
people were very forgiving about that, and like afterwards people hung out and were back up the next morning, and it was great to see everyone.
Yeah. So Limerick, I think, was a surprise to a lot of people, like location wise. I think a lot of people expected either Dublin or Ulster. Now, I imagine Dublin would have been very pricey at the time.
Dublin was pricey. And then also a lot of the accommodation was going towards like accommodation and venue space was going towards refugee Ukrainians that were coming in. So it meant that also like the access, there was just like for example, I had looked down like the route of Trinity to see if I could do something with my connections in Trinity and stuff. Halls was full of Ukrainians that had been displaced and stuff like that. So, obviously that's going to take a little bit more precedence than playing video games together for a weekend. And so you have a lot of, you had all of that. And then like Ulster, while a sort of traditionalist choice, like Belfast and stuff, you were quite difficult. It was quite difficult of a venue for people from the south to get to, especially from the likes of Cork and like Waterford and stuff like that, where there's a non-substantial group of Irish players. And so Limerick actually sort of cuts the difference for everyone, because it's from nearly anywhere in the country 2 to 4-ish hours via public transport, and then 2-ish hours driving, 3 hours if you're coming from parts of Belfast.
4.
Okay, yeah, but okay, big cities, okay. And so like it was pretty decent all around in terms of timing wise, and it was a good venue at a very, very good price. And it allowed us to get everyone together, have accommodation, really have no problems from the venue sort of standpoint, where it just sort of worked and was great, and everyone was happy. And got to play games for the weekend, which was cool.
Yeah, is there anything you would change in terms of number of teams, more or less? You know, because
I think we could have gone up to 16. Like I had planned to have up to 16 people.
Okay, right, yeah,
And we would have been able to do it. I think table wise, probably would have been our biggest issue. Maybe power as well. But it was definitely doable.
yeah,
Up to 16, not more, but definitely
yeah,
doable up
dude,
to 16. And like having, I think we had 14. It was sort of like a good amount to justify what we were doing, and we were able to very like solidly have these teams come, which was nice.
yeah, and I think the format as well worked out all right. Everyone got to play like a good amount of games.
Oh yeah, like and
Just
there
sort
was
of that
not
jazz.
much delays between games and stuff, like just enough for people to like actually take breaks that were like well needed and stuff like
Yeah,
that. The hall was pretty good because people were spread out, and there was only one case where people were playing against each other directly across from each other. But like considering the number of teams, like I think that was, or sorry, the small number of teams, I think that was actually pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
again, the biggest thing was just the issues with power and that damn Ethernet cable that didn't work.
Yeah, and it is worth noting the only matchup where one team could see the other team's monitors, the team that could see the monitors actually lost. So
Yeah, that's true.
if anything, having to the fact that some players were leaning really heavily to the side might have actually impacted themselves. But
And there is like in these sort of small LAN environments, there's a sense of like personal responsibility that you're it's all in good humor. Like you're
yeah,
supposed to be able to go to the pub afterwards with the same people, right? Like
yeah, which many people did, and got absurdly drunk. Like,
oh yeah, especially the first night. So I had organized the sort of like the night that people arrived. I had booked like a big room in like a local pub.
yeah.
And people got very drunk. It was very fun to see.
Oh, I escaped, I think, just at the right time. Because
Yeah.
if people don't know, they probably do now. I don't handle my drink particularly well. And I was like, right, well, I'm going to be awake. I'm going to be in the LAN hall. I'm going to be doing my setup and shit. So
Yeah,
I escaped.
I left early enough as well.
Yeah. I think we were fairly smart. Especially Adam's flat sounded a bit mental, to be honest. But that aside, so on your way out, you did say there is the potential for another LAN happening.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can say about that? I think, was there a hint? Let me
No,
double.
it's just sort of like loose plans and loose ideas, right? Like there's nothing that's like super concrete that's in the work. Oh, look at this! I can see.
Oh yeah,
See you
yeah. No, I,
looking.
I forgot that was gonna happen, but I want to check. No, there's no point checking now. Because I thought I did see a hint that it was gonna be
Luke
Dublin.
mentions the Dublin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a venue in Dublin that that the Dota 2 guys were planning to have a LAN this weekend actually, but it's not
Okay.
happening anymore because accommodation was too expensive for people to do. But I know the price of that venue, and it would be possible to host a LAN in Dublin in this place. The only thing is that it's first of all, Dublin has a huge accommodation problem, and especially during the college years, you have everyone who's here, right? So all of the college accommodation that would otherwise be maybe cheaper to rent out, or hostels and stuff, it's all gone. But there is at least still a hotel in Dublin that's willing to host a gaming event at a not super expensive price that can host 16-ish teams. But at the moment, there's nothing super concrete other than that. And it's more a sense of figuring out when would be an appropriate time to do something like this again.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that, at least at the moment during the academic year, it is doable. That could change, but Dublin is expensive, and then Limerick as well. We can't do Limerick during the academic year because all that accommodation that people stayed in is now full. Is going to be full of students in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So it might be a little while from now. and I think I had maybe more hopes to do something sooner, until I was sort of following the problems in the Dota 2 community, and them trying to find accommodation that was like reasonable. So we'll see. I still have people to talk to, ideas to sort of throw around, but like, when things kick in motion, I'll be pretty clear when things are happening, right? I'm a fairly, I think, transparent person when it comes to my plans. The minute I can share information, I don't necessarily view the point of not sharing it.
Some would say very excitable.
Yeah, I get excited when things happen.
Yeah,
because like it's a fun thing, right? People get to partake in things, and when I do things, I get excited about doing them, and I want to share that excitement with people. It's pretty lame to keep it to myself.
I know, but some people, like to do hype videos and stuff like that, because obviously,
like,
there is
you have to have someone to do it.
Yeah,
right?
well,
and again, like, someone has to spend the time to put a video together like that, and unfortunately, my video editing days are in the past.
Well, I've heard the people who could be involved somewhat with the LAN, right? Potentially, but yeah.
And they had plenty of opportunities to do things.
No, I know, but if without dropping too big of a hint, one of them might be handy with video editing software, so you might have to.
The thing is also these people are very busy.
Yeah. I'm more relatively small fish for now.
The person that you're specifically speaking of is, I think, working 2 full-time jobs doing video editing for esports organizations. So like, when you look at it that way, they have things that actually put food on the table.
Yeah. Out of interest, so I have heard that it could potentially be a slightly bigger prize pool. You don't have to confirm or deny whatever. Do you think if we do scale up prize pools at like even just a noticeable amount, do you think we run the risk of bringing over people from the mainland, and would we either welcome that, or do you think there could be an introduction for an ICL-esque limitation on nationalities of teams, where if people don't know at the moment, I think, isn't it 3 people from Ireland, or at least Irish passport, or if you're in Northern Ireland, a British passport, because as long as you live in Northern Ireland, I think you're supposed to be all right. Yeah.
Rocket League Ireland actually have a very good term for Irish people, where they have anyone who's in Ireland, and then they have what's called integrated Irish, which is just anyone who's actually actively part of the Irish community who might not actually be Irish, but who's integrated Irish, right?
Yeah.
And
I think we tried to do that, but was there not a lot of controversy whenever we?
No, it worked okay. I mean, it worked ish. I think the big, like, I don't know if bigger, like, we already had a fairly large prize pool. Considering what we did, I would actually personally scale back the prize pool a little bit to make cheaper tickets. The reason why the prize pool was the size that it was because I didn't have full assurance on pricing on a couple of things, and I needed to ensure that the money that was coming from tickets would cover everything that was
just
going to
overshot
cover.
Slightly.
So I put it an overshot, and the theory behind that was that way I'd be confident that I wasn't going to pay for anything out of pocket for whether it was cleaning or the venue or accommodation or stuff like that, or any surprise costs like the insurance that we had to pay for, and that any extra money would go directly into the prize pool. And I would have preferred to have a slightly smaller prize pool. Our first place was 1,001. Afterwards, it was like 300, and then 200 and 200 or something along those lines. To have cheaper tickets, because the tickets were not cheap, right? For before accommodation for the event itself, it was €65. Accommodation was €45 a night, right? Like, it for people who are mostly students and young, it's not a given, and so I would have preferred to have cheaper prize pools, cheaper tickets and a slightly smaller prize pool. But I also know that bigger prize pools attract people. I think there was already slightly talk of some people coming over.
Yeah, I remember that.
sort of half as memes. I know maybe if the prize pool was big enough, you'd have people from the UK, especially who would travel over. But I think that sort of style of people flying over for an event is much more suited for a sort of much larger scale type of event, like a sort of Insomnia Dublin, a Gamerfest, DreamHack Ireland, so to speak, if that could ever be a thing. And I know that has been done in the past beforehand. And I think the only bigger prize pool that happened in Ireland in Counter-Strike was at one of those type events.
Yeah.
Forget the one exactly. But I think they had like a €3,000 prize pool, and it all went to first place or something along those lines.
Yeah, I know. But I do feel like at least if we do get to that point, some people might not be necessarily too happy. But sure.
See, at that point, it's a different type of event, right?
Yeah,
at that point, that is
I get
actual.
Like, although I don't think Epic's a whole big thing, isn't it? It is primarily just tournament wise. It's not like a wider community thing like an Insomnia where they get all these different.
What Epic? Like Epic Land?
Yeah.
They're yeah, it's community-ish. I don't know too much about their organization though.
I'm pretty sure that they do just like tournaments essentially, and you don't go and see insert YouTuber's name at his stand and stuff like that. I think it is primarily just esports focused, which could be something down the road. But I do think you'll have to get a lot more people involved, different games.
So it was Dublin Games Festival 2018 that had a €2,000 first place prize pool.
Games Fest.
Yeah, I can send you the CS Codex page for it if you want.
Nah, it's all right as long as it's not GamerCon.
No.
The dread.
Yeah, because they had like Dublin's Game Festival had like proper sponsors. Right? Yeah, they had like, if you have a look, sponsor Total Expo, Conference Services, GX, 4-Star Pizza, Geek Ireland, Spin 1038, right? Like
numerous
big stuff, and they had a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah. I know. There'll be a lot to look forward to. There's always, I think rumors are always exaggerated anyway, whenever you hear how much people...
And it's also funny when you hear rumors about things that you run, and you're like, where the hell did this come from? I never like sometimes, I'll say things that and I'll hear rumors about things that I'm like organizing and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much like, that could be like either like an extension of what is possible, what we've been talking about, where it's like, there's a path of what could happen, whereas like sometimes people will just say things and I'm like, where the hell did that come out of? Like someone said something somewhere.
Do you want to hear the one that I heard?
I would love to hear the one that you heard.
So this is back, I think, whenever multiple people were trying to buy for making a LAN, and I think yours was obviously the most tenable one, but I had heard that one was being proposed to happen in Dublin with a 10k pool spread out. Now, whether that was 10k to also be spent on venue costs and stuff like that, but the word 10k was being thrown before people were buying tickets and stuff like that, which made me laugh. But if that was possible, if anyone hears this and they have actual
I think I know the one that you're talking about too, and I think I know where that 10k kind of comes from.
Okay,
interesting. That's funny.
Yeah, because then I was surprised whenever the people who are supposed to be putting that one together turned up in the Legion or the Lotus Discord. So we'll see how things turn out. But for now, obviously you are still involved in Legion. You're not going anywhere. People should keep an eye out for Lotus, as we've basically discussed. Something might happen there. I suppose it could be under whatever new fantastical name you come up with.
Lotus Land was just a name. It's so hard to come up with a name for things. Like it's so hard that sounds like decent. Like Lotus Land is not in the top tier of names.
No,
but when you look at the other options of names that we had running, it's so bad.
Okay, but I said if another land comes about, it could be under a different name. It could be under Lotus. Just see what happens. Okay, perfect. And then
I'm sure I'll be around helping regardless of what it is, especially experience is key in terms of like running a LAN. I think like just so that there's a good idea of how things work and the things to expect, because you can not make the same mistakes that I make.
Which they weren't a lot. They were slightly big delays on them, but we got them all fixed. Everything was fine. It was quite a nice introduction to the LAN scene, especially for quite a few people. But for now, is there anything immediate you can even really shout out to keep an eye on, or is a lot of
just
the things?
The big thing with the big thing is just keep an eye out on the Lotus.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not the Lotus Discord for sure for Lotus LAN stuff. But the thing that's coming next anyway is Legion.
Yeah.
And that'll be announced within this week or next week.
Yeah, so a lot of the things you're involved in are sort of like you will find out when you find out. Almost. Yes, perfect. Okay. Well, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people sad to not have you to pester on a day-to-day basis, but I think
I won't be sad.
it is much
No
much
offense.
better for your mental health. I think, like, especially stress-wise. You'll have me and Evan coming to you less. Obviously with disasters on the broadcast, thankfully. And if I'm honest, I'll be very, very happy to not get messages from you about fonts and all this shit broadcast stuff.
Fonts are important.
I know, but
and they make all the difference.
I think you know what it is. It honestly, it's just if I've spent 30 minutes trying to get something to work and then you message me about it mid-broadcast, you're right, but fuck you at the same time, right? Yeah, I think we'll end things here. There'll be a link to your Twitter and anything else you want me to put in the description. Any shout outs or anything you want to do?
Not really.
No. Apart from Legion Collegiate and Lotus LAN.
Yeah, just check out esports in Ireland. There's no like central like authority for esports in Ireland, so that's where I'd point people if I could.
Yeah, true. And also you don't have to do any of the shout outs for the stuff that Gamer Legion or whatever they're called.
Fest. They're doing a €3,000 R6 tournament that qualifies for like a larger thing as well. And then they're doing in partnership with Rocket League Ireland, they're doing like a €300 Rocket League tournament with the finals on the main stage. So if you're interested in those things, go check it out.
Yeah. But from the two of us, I think we'll bid you adieu and get out of here, because I haven't done one of these in a while and I am exhausted now.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly. But for now, I'll be on the next one, I guess. I don't know.